All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. We definitely wanted to continue on with our Chin Check Sports Radio top 10 most controversial boxing decisions of our lifetime. Yes, we know, good people, it has been a long time in between posts about this particular list, but understand something, there's a lot of variables that are going into this particular list. We have to decide the outrageousness of the decision using our criteria, boxing criteria. We have told you that we were training to be a judge in our home state of New Jersey, going by the rules of the Boxing Commission, going by the magnitude of the fight, the star power of the fighter. So this is not an easy list, but we're definitely having fun putting the list together. What we also find ourselves doing is we have to go back and actually watch the fight to figure out, okay, was it really a bad decision or that bad of a decision? And what we've uncovered so far, when we watch the fight years later, we tend to score and judge the rounds a little bit differently. So there's always something with that. So which brings us next up, September 2003, Shane Mosley with a unanimous decision victory over Oscar De La Hoya. Now, to give you the backstory, in June of 2000, Shane Mosley beat Oscar De La Hoya in a split decision that really should have been a unanimous decision in the first ever boxing match that took place at the Staples Arena where the Los Angeles Lakers and the Clippers play. That fight, believe it or not, we feel is a rather underrated classic fight in the welterweight division. In the late 90s, the welterweight division had a lot of great fighters, from Pernell Whitaker, Felix Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, Ike Quartet. So that was just a star power, and a lot of these fights were made between these guys. And again, we're going to give Oscar De La Hoya credit. He fought all the top guys of his era, but we're going to give you a little spoiler here. You will continue to see Oscar De La Hoya as we progress on this particular countdown. So Shane Mosley defeats Oscar De La Hoya in June of 2000. Great fight. Then Shane Mosley then seemingly lost his momentum really after that fight. Fought some really nondescript opponents. In November of 2000, a TKO in the 6th round against one Antonio Diaz. March of 2001, a referee stoppage against one Shannon Taylor. July of 2001, a TKO victory in the 3rd round against one Adrian Stone. Yes, folks, you probably have never heard of those fighters. Shane Mosley then suffers his first professional loss against the late Vernon the Viper Forrest in Madison Square Garden. Now, Vernon Forrest had once defeated Shane Mosley when they were amateurs, and it was always that thing that if you can beat a guy as an amateur, can you beat him as a professional? It's been done both ways. Mike Tyson lost to a guy in the amateurs, knocked him out as pros. You have Vernon Forrest beating Shane Mosley in the amateurs and then beating him in the pros. There was a guy, I believe, named Muhammad Abdullayev who once beat Miguel Cotto in the amateurs. Cotto knocked him out as a pro. So it just depends. So it's really not an exact science because the scoring system, the styles are different. So it is what it is. But either way, Vernon Forrest with, quite frankly, a dominant victory over Shane Mosley. And that just missed the cut of our top 10 boxing upsets of all time. July of 2002, Vernon Forrest again defeats Shane Mosley in a close decision, but a clear-cut unanimous decision victory. So now Vernon Forrest has now gone 2-0 in the professional ranks against Sugar Shane Mosley, who was christened after the fight against De La Hoya as a next great welterweight in the mold of a Sugar Ray Robinson and a Sugar Ray Leonard. February of 2003, a no contest against Raul Marquez, again due to a clash of heads. So now we're looking at almost a year span where Shane Mosley has not won a fight, was thoroughly dominated in the first fight against one Vernon Forrest, lost a clear unanimous decision in the rematch against one Vernon Forrest, and then followed by a no contest against one Raul Marquez. Let's go to Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya, after the Shane Mosley fight, fights the late great Arturo Gatti with a TKO in the 5th round, March of 2001. Then Oscar De La Hoya, knowing the boxing politician that he is, and I remember him saying this in interviews, he took the fight against reigning WBC 154-pound champion Javier Castillejo out of Spain, because he knew moving up to a higher weight class, the 154 division or light middleweight, he knew that he needed to have a world championship in order to negotiate fights. So moving up in his first fight at 154 pounds, defeats Javier Castillejo for the WBC championship. In September of 2002, a whole year later, in the grudge match, in another classic fight in that welterweight junior middleweight division against one Fernando Vargas, a TKO in the 11th round. May of 2003, a TKO in the 7th round against Yuri Boy Campos. So now this sets the stage for the Shane Mosley rematch at 154 pounds. Now, anybody going into that fight would have to have De La Hoya as the favorite going into the rematch. There was questions whether Shane Mosley was the same fighter, as we just broke down, coming off of back-to-back losses against one Vernon Forrest, coming off against a no contest that really was a few rounds against one Raul Marquez. Again, that was only a 3-round fight. So what do we have to offer, or what have we seen from Shane in the ring to lead us to believe that he was the same fighter? Also, Oscar De La Hoya, he took on Floyd Mayweather Sr. as a trainer, and you started to see some of the improvements, specifically in the Vargas fight, with trying to implement and utilize a version of the Floyd Mayweather shoulder roll, of using his jab, of trying to create a right hand. That was something that wasn't really developed in Oscar De La Hoya's arsenal. So basically making the point to jab and to use his right hand. So this particular fight, the stage is set for the rematch. I think more of name recognition for Oscar De La Hoya to hopefully get his win back. So going into the first round, we thought that De La Hoya had an excellent tactical strategy by simply jabbing. By jabbing. Shane Mosley really wasn't that busy of a fighter, but he felt that Oscar did a good job of jabbing and throwing the occasional right hand. Now, Shane Mosley did catch Oscar with a left hook, but again, how we based our criteria that Oscar was the busier fighter throughout that round, was landing more telling punches, not those pitter-patter punches that he would try to steal rounds with, a la a Sugar Ray Leonard, but definitely, throwing hard, stiff jabs, snapping Mosley's head back, catching him with a quick right hand, nothing that was devastating, but an improved right hand, versus Shane Mosley's one hard left hook that pretty much got De La Hoya's attention, but we thought that De La Hoya controlled the action in that particular round. We gave round 2 De La Hoya, same thing, winning the battle of the jabs. Now, if you go back and watch the first Mosley and De La Hoya fight, it was like a cobra and a mongoose just came out swinging. You saw the speed. You saw Shane Mosley, speed of foot and hand, and body in one move. It was just a pure athletic display, along with great boxing IQ and boxing skills. And Shane Mosley clearly was a slower fighter. Oscar was dictating, that's what we call ring generalship. He was dictating the action with his jab and his right hand, and basically he had Mosley keep trying to come forward. We gave a third round to Mosley. Now, a lot of rounds are very close to score. We gave a third round to Mosley by, we thought, landing more showier and more telling punches. We scored round 4 even. We felt that both men did what they had to do. There was times where Oscar had his moments, Shane had his moments, so nobody was really dominated in that particular round. We gave round 5 to Shane Mosley. That Oscar De La Hoya clearly slowed down. He wasn't jabbing as much. We felt that Shane started to find his rhythm. In the 6th round, we gave a 6th round to Oscar De La Hoya. We felt that Oscar De La Hoya was landing some hard body shots on Shane Mosley, who was known as a body puncher. Go back and review that first fight where Shane Mosley was putting that money in the bank and slowed Oscar down to pretty much sweep the last 3 rounds, where he was landing hard punches, and you saw Oscar being worn down from some of the hard body shots. So we gave the round 6 to Oscar De La Hoya. We gave round 7 to Oscar De La Hoya. Again, controlling the action. He's getting off punches and doing what he has to do. Round 8. Round 8 is another one of those even rounds where we don't feel that one fighter dominated the other. We kind of lean towards Mosley in that particular round, but we can see how De La Hoya could have won a round also. Clearly, round 9 was Shane Mosley's best round. Wasn't even close. It was nothing to even talk about. A dominating round by Shane Mosley. You can score round 10 even. Some people tend to give the round to De La Hoya, which we can see. But again, it was another one of those rounds where Shane Mosley was landing hard, stiff shots. De La Hoya was jabbing. Now, Mosley was not as active as De La Hoya, throwing a lot of punches, but you can throw punches, but if you're not quite landing, that's what the problem is. So now it goes to the 11th and the 12th round. You can give both rounds to De La Hoya. Some people gave the 12th round to Mosley. So all three judges in that fight scored that fight 115, 113 for Sugar Shane Mosley. Now, we remember watching that fight with some good friends of ours. Shout out Julio. Was definitely watching that fight, and I think that night watching it, when we figured that the referees had made a decision, and when they announced Shane Mosley as the winner, I remember sitting up on the couch saying, "What?" And we couldn't believe what we heard. And even the look on Shane Mosley's face, where he had a look of shock and surprise on his face that they gave him the decision, is pretty much everything that would tell you that maybe Mosley didn't think that he won that fight. But now let's really expand on that. And people tend to take that and say, see, that proves Mosley didn't win the fight. How many of you have taken an exam, whether it's an oral board or written exam or some type of evaluation, and maybe you didn't feel like you did as good as you thought you were going to do? It could be a physical fitness test. Maybe you didn't feel like you ran a certain time, but there was some test or some evaluation that you took where you was like, you know what, maybe I didn't do as well as I thought I did. And then we got the results. You had a genuine surprise in your face, like, damn, I did a lot better than I thought I was going to do. And did you all doubt yourself by saying, well, I didn't deserve it, and, I shouldn't have won, or I shouldn't have, got the promotion, I shouldn't have gotten the job, I shouldn't have got what was earned? So I tend to keep that in mind when folks say, well, look at Mosley's face. He was genuinely surprised that he won. I've seen that. We've had fighters get the brakes beaten off of them, and they'll tell you with a straight face that they won the fight. So I tend to take that with a grain of salt. Now, what was disgusting was a clear reaction by the HBO announce team, namely George Foreman, Jim Lampley, and Larry Merchant, but namely George Foreman. And by saying that it was an agenda against Bob Arum, of the fight, we get it. Boxing decisions are very subjective. We've broken this down before. Some people, judges watching the fight, might score maybe inside punches. They just might score jabs that, even the crowd might be oohing and on, but maybe the judges are not swayed by that. Maybe judges look at it and say, okay, maybe De La Hoya is flurrying a whole lot, but is he really landing anything effective? He probably wasn't. Was Shane Mosley landing the harder punches that really got the judges' attention? That could have been it as well. If you go back and watch the broadcast, there were times where the HBO broadcast team was saying, well, it was a hard right hand by De La Hoya, but totally just forgetting the left hook to the body that Shane Mosley landed. So each judges have different criteria and they land different things. So there was a lot of criticism for the judges. There was a lot, especially on the HBO broadcast. Oscar De La Hoya faced his share of criticism by saying that he was going to file a complaint and conduct an investigation. Again, since the beginning of time, boxing, well, you know what, I won't go that far, but there's boxing judges, and that's just the way it is. You have three people who have their own criteria, who place certain things or certain emphasis on parts of the criteria to make their final determination. So this fight, yes, you can definitely say that Oscar De La Hoya deserved to win that fight. Was it the worst decision of all time? No. If you go back and watch that fight again, like we've done on a couple of occasions, you find yourself giving Mosley maybe more rounds, because here was the deal with Oscar De La Hoya back then. And he was the big star. And we mentioned this before. If you look at mainstream stars in boxing, Oscar De La Hoya clearly was the mainstream star in boxing. I'm talking where if you go back to Muhammad Ali, a mainstream star, followed by Sugar Ray Leonard. Then you have the Mike Tyson era that maybe Tyson came a little bit afterwards or ran at the same time with Sugar Ray Leonard. After that Tyson era, Oscar De La Hoya was a gold medalist in the 92 Olympics, and Oscar De La Hoya was that star of boxing, especially being a Latin fighter, a Mexican fighter. So, of course, you have, Muhammad Ali, African-American, Ray Leonard, African-American, you have Mike Tyson, African-American, and not discounting the Marvin Haglers and the Roberto Durans and the George Foremans, but we're talking about mainstream appeal when you are a huge star outside the sport of boxing, where casual fans, where women tend to watch the boxing or they want to watch you fight. Oscar De La Hoya, he definitely was that star. He definitely brought a lot of women into boxing. So no mistake about it, Oscar De La Hoya was that star, the biggest star in boxing. And pretty much when he first came out as a professional, really towards the end of his career, and of course, I believe in 2007, and Floyd Mayweather transcended him as the biggest star in boxing. But for a good little while, Oscar De La Hoya was the guy. Now, why is that significant? Oscar De La Hoya generally would get the benefit of the doubt when scoring a fight. Unless you beat a fighter like Oscar convincingly in the round, the judges, it would almost be it was Oscar's round to lose. So Oscar really couldn't, if he didn't do much or just did enough and the other fighter didn't overwhelmingly win the round, Oscar De La Hoya was getting the benefit of the doubt in winning that round. That's just how it is in boxing. That's how it is in life. Stars get the benefit of the doubt. So unless it's rounds that Shane Mosley, especially going back to the first fight where he clearly was winning those rounds, going back to this fight, Oscar De La Hoya was given the benefit of the doubt of rounds. So even if he didn't do much, he might have landed maybe a few punches here and there, and they got the oohs and ahs of the crowd, being the big star, fighting in Vegas. Those things happen in boxing. So now you're asking, well, Chin Check, why is this fight so far down on your list? It's simple. Again, putting it in the proper context. Even though Shane Mosley was a very popular fighter, he wasn't a very transcendent star. That's number one. Oscar De La Hoya was. And number two, going into this fight, everybody watching or boxing fans knew that this was pretty much for Oscar De La Hoya to get his win back. It was definitely a way to erase the ghost of Shane Mosley victory of the past. And Mosley was not the same fighter that he was 3 years prior. So that's why, we don't really put it up there. As we continue with the list, we're going to explain our reasons why. And post note, with the whole Balco thing and Barry Bonds and why Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame, Shane Mosley admitted under oath that he injected himself with EPO and got the cream in the clear, basically used a version of performing enhancing substances or drugs in order to be ready for this fight. So there was always a black eye over this particular fight. And that's just what it is. So we definitely had fun reviewing it. We definitely encourage you all to go back and watch the fight. Definitely we can see how Oscar De La Hoya was robbed of his victory. Do we think it's the worst the worst robbery ever in boxing? No, it was not. The other ones that we're going to talk about coming up on this list are much worse than that. And again, the magnitude of the fight, what was at stake in the fight is why this fight is so far down. However, the fight did still make the list of the Chin Check Sports Radio top 10 controversial decisions of all time in professional boxing. Definitely be on the lookout. We're going to continue on with our list. And until the next time, the Chin Check Radio. Signing out.